All right, so just a little preamble. This is four representatives of a team of about, I don't know, maybe were there 14, give or take, 15 of us. And it was made up of people from the industry, EPCs, technology companies, owners. And our goal was to build an implementation guide for AWP. You know, the question always is, oh, RT 272, which was the original CII research study, he says, yeah, here's AWP. Okay? It didn't really tell you how to do it. So then they went in and kind of did some implementation work, and that's when RT 319 come out, I think it was a few years later. And it had some stuff in there about how to implement, but I think we as an industry, amongst everybody that was on that team, all had some pieces and parts of our businesses that would help make it easier for contractors, for anybody. And it's not just in the industry of oil and energy and chemicals. I'm talking about any industry. The guidelines that or the elements that we put in here are easy to use. So we'll go through the contents of that. I'm going to start by saying this was a research team. Bill O'Brien out of UT Austin was our research academic, and he had a great graduate called Vasilina. She was just awesome at rounding this team up because it was very difficult, like herding cats, to get us together, and she did a great job of it. So Bill, unfortunately, I think he broke something, his shoulder or something, his arm. He couldn't make it. So he was nice enough, since it was the last minute, to put some audio together for the first portion of this slide pack. So about the first 8 slides, you are going to be listening to Bill. I should have put a picture of him up here. I didn't. But, you know, thanks to him and the effort there. And this is now published, I guess, in CII, or still waiting publication. We're close. It's very close. All right, so anything else before we start? Is that good enough? All right, go ahead and cue the audio and then kick up the slides.
Hey, everyone. I am so disappointed not to be able to join you in Houston for the AWP conference, and there's so much exciting stuff going on that I wish I could be there with you, but unfortunately I'm not able to join you. But I am really excited to talk to you about the work of Research Team 390, which was trying to distill the essence of AWP to ease and speed its implementation. So here on this first slide, we're showing a project that you're going to get a little bit more information about later. This is a live project where AWP is being used very successfully across the entire project, through design, execution, through commissioning and startup. And we're sure it's going to be a great project for the client. Unfortunately, this project is not always the one that, you know, we wish this was the model for everything, but it's not always the one. What we see on this slide with maturity, there is quite a bit of good things that happen on mature organizations. And importantly, even if you're in a less mature area, you still will see some benefit from use of work-phase planning and advanced work packaging. But there's a real performance chasm moving from early adopters to mature implementation. And in a nutshell, that really means moving from field execution, which is largely controlled by construction, to doing full AWP, tying in design, procurement, and commissioning upfront for success. And as you can imagine, that's hard, and that's the performance chasm right there. There's only so much you can do if you don't have the whole project aligned successfully. And over the years that we've been looking at this and exploring it, lots of advice has been given, but it still seems to be hard for teams to kind of come together. And so the rationale for our team, RT390, was to try to distill the essence of advanced work packaging, to provide more targeted guidance for implementation, to make it easier to get going, and also to help translate that to the enterprise. As we all know, it's so much easier to do something if we're all doing it, and it's not an exception. So some of the research we did to be able to maximize the benefits of AWP was to look at benefits during execution. And these are the ones we've understood for a long time. Perhaps adding some new detail here, but there's a lot of agreement that there's a reduction in RFIs, there's improvement in productivity, there's improvements in change management, there's improvements in the process of doing the work. What's less understood and perhaps causes some hesitancy by others is the benefits that come in early planning. Early planning, if you do AWP well and you put it together, you will see improved incorporation of constructability into the design, more clarity of information requirements, improved clarity of priorities. That's a big one. Better guidance overall. And so really AWP done well is a win-win. And that's, I think, one of the important messages is that it's not just about construction. It's not just about the people in the field. Done well, it can help everybody succeed in their jobs in all phases. So to help distill AWP to you, what are we delivering? What did RT390 deliver? Well, a set of guidance that are in relatively short booklets, essentially, that try to take a lot of the massive amount of tomes that CII have published around AWP into what is the essence. So there is an AWP review, an owner's guide, sort of a read this first, get started. A bunch of handbooks that are targeted to each of the major phases of construction, and an enterprise guide. It has some small case studies within that. So to take you through the key ideas, let me turn this back over to my colleagues and let them give and share their expertise.
All right. So that didn't work out too bad, did it? Bill's good. He does that. I've seen more than one of those with him. So this is what we delivered in terms of an outcome or an output. These handbooks, as you see, are fairly discipline specific, and the AWP owner's guide is kind of the place to start. All right, and then the enterprise guide is for those who might be interested in portfolios such as our U.S. Gulf Coast of Mexico Deepwater organization, such as some of our manufacturing assets who might be implementing it at a portfolio level. I'm going to say some of the 100 million or 100 million less up to 100 million type opportunities, okay? But down to whatever level you can imagine, right? This is completely scalable. So as part of our work, one of the questions that happened pretty early in some of the meetings was, we have a lot of jargon in our industry, don't we? I mean, everybody, IPA has their stuff, CII has their stuff, owners have our stuff, and we never really aligned all these various acronyms that go along with our process. But one thing we do have is we all have a stage-gated process in some sort of way. I don't care if you're in a building companies or if you're into hydrogen or what you're into. You have a company, you're hopefully going to be having some kind of stage-gated process to fund your project, right? And so we thought, well, let's try to articulate that and look at all these various nomenclatures that you have. We use select, define, and execute on the top there. But, IPA uses the FEL phases. I think CII uses the stages. Is that right? I think it is. Anyway, but you can also see that red line of final investment decision, and look how far to the right it is. A lot of the stuff that our good friends at AWP University have done with these charts, also we've had to align a little bit there because, to be honest with you, this AWP in the past was very work-phase planning centric, right? It was very execute centric. So this advanced part, we're still trying to get it. But I think the point is when you look at all the deliverables and all of the different stages, targets, the project management milestones, et cetera, across the phase of the life cycle of a project as it relates to AWP, you can see a lot of it's to the left of that investment decision. So I'll talk about the way we set this up. I'm going to talk about kind of the select phase activities. My friend Herman, who I'll do with Honeywell, will do the define phase activities, and our friend Mick from BGC will do all the execute phase. Okay, so that's how it's broken up. So everybody good with this timeline? I think this is something you need to have in your pocket if you're really starting out trying to do AWP. You better, figure out what you're going to do when. Okay. All right, I'm going to cover that. Herman will cover that. Mick will cover that. And here we go. So what do I want to say about this? So we've got the handbook. Of course, the AWP review guide is key to this, but also handbook A. This is at the point where I would say the left side of the dot or triangle there it's a diamond actually, is where we come out of our concept select, I would say, okay? So we were just now kind of getting into select. So when I say that, that's stage 0, or if you have to go back and look at the other terminology, FEL1, FEL2. Bottom line is this is the start of the job for us as owners. And what we need to do right off the bat is define a path of construction. And what does that mean? We'll go into what that entails in a minute, but we need to set up a path of construction, which means we need to know the modularization requirements. We need to understand what we're going to modularize, what we're not going to modularize, et cetera. And we need to have who we need to have in the room. We'll talk about that because you can't do it in a box. It's not a construction job. Construction is the receiver. I always say we're the tail wagging the dog. You can do a little bit, but you get what you get. This is the start of it, okay? You have your constructability reviews, of course, and I want to introduce the topic of an interactive planning session, IAP, the thing in yellow, the diamond in yellow. And that's where you work to develop that path of construction. You get the right team members together, okay? You already seen this morning, but the point of this was to CII, and really it's not in the guide, it's not in anything to do with 390. It just gives you the depiction of the fact that, look, you got to start this stuff early and you got to consume a huge amount of data. So we talk about what is that interactive planning session. Well, you can see there are expertise involved with your different organizations that you have, operations, engineering, your construction group, procurement. You need a seat at the table. You need to have an interactive planning meeting that has all these people involved. Start with the end in mind. How are we going to operate this thing? Once you know kind of what you're going to do from an operations standpoint, you can start laying out, your path to construction. How am I going to build this thing? And then the inputs to making those decisions are on the right. I don't think I need to repeat all of them. You can read them. They're typical elements of any project that you need in order to have a discussion about how you're going to build it. Okay? This helps you define your path of construction. I'll just go off key a little bit here, but I have an example of projects, many of them, that are in execute, who when I go to talk to them, they're doing AWP, I'm like, show me your path of construction. Like, they can articulate it, but they have no way to show it to me, which doesn't give me an easy, warm feeling. So you got to have this path of construction. It gives you many outputs. Again, a lot of these will grow over the life cycle of the project that my colleagues will get into in a minute. But there are a few things that are key. So at the end of our select phase, when we get out of that phase, we're ready to move into define. These are 3 elements that we look for. Do you have that path of construction, hopefully in some kind of a digital format? Do you have your data requirements established, your coding structure put in place against your work breakdown structure? And do you have a contracting strategy document that aligns with what you're trying to achieve? If you do those 3 things, 3 things. You can at least have a conversation about, am I set up for success or not, right? All right, I'm going to show you a quick video at the end of Select, very early in the project. Sorry I whistled. But very early in the job, what it might look like. I think, can I hit play or do you have to hit play here? There you go. This has sound behind it. Sorry, guys.
This video demonstrates the path of construction in combination with a color-coded representation for crane allocation. A path of construction should start in select phase as a 3D block model combined with a high-level schedule. The blocks should represent modules and construction work areas. As the project data matures through the define and execute phases, the 3D blocks become more detailed and the schedule deepens in granularity. Key benefits of a path of construction have been proven in the following areas: validation and optimization of the schedule, efficient communication of a complex schedule, long lead item tracking, material availability, access management and site logistics planning, and constraints visualization.
So, you know, this is not hard to do at all. I mean, these blocks that you see here are dumb blocks, if you call them that. They're not smart. They're not attributed with anything at this point in the job, but we know they're a piece of equipment and it's this big or this tall, this wide, this whatever. And then you put a schedule against it and you can show it this way. Very inexpensive to do, really. The technology's there already. I mean, just go out and talk to any of these folks in the back wall. You can get it done, okay? That is a conversation worth having with people, as we said, talking about earlier in this conference. They don't necessarily have to have a knowledge of data or a knowledge of AWP, but they can see what they've got to put in and how it goes together, right? From everybody on the job. So that's what we're hoping to get to with that. I'm going to turn it over to Herman.
Okay, so thanks, Jade. It's always a pleasure to hear from one of the best in the industry and learn about what can be done. So we're at the end of FEL 1 and ready to start pre-feed and moving to feed. So we're going to try to discuss this piece of it where we are in completing stage 1. So you see this big block in the middle is the funding investment decision. Is when you're going to make the decision to really move to execution. So we're going to walk from this stage gate at the end of FEL 1 and then move forward towards the end. There was a lot of discussions about what should we talk or incorporate into it, and if we can put some of these elements into pre-feed specifically or FEL 2 or feed and FEL 3. But the team concluded that at the end of the day, we're providing these key components, key milestones that should be done and completed before you move forward to execution if you really want to maximize the benefits of AWP. And we said, here is the elements, and then what we'd like to suggest is you go ahead and look at your procedures and you look at the information you have and then allocate them according to what you prefer to do and your organization would prefer to do. So we have basically 2 key yellow milestones, 2 interactive planning sessions, and the difference between them is only how much information become available from the scope. How much information can feed this is the difference between the 2. Then we have 2 diamonds, green ones, some engineering deliverables that need to be available or they are produced during the pre-feed and feed stages. And obviously, what you're trying to target is at the end to be very successful is being proven that you want to have issue effort design information so the maturity of your scope is enough to really move forward to execute. And then I would like to draw your attention to the big red milestone there, L3. It's just your level 3 resource loaded schedule. And that's a key component of your real planning. And you want to have, obviously, we talked about the previous session, talk about alignment, and alignment is key, and it has to show in your schedule. So your system work packages, your construction work package, your engineering work packages have to be shown in this schedule, and they need to be aligned. And what you use is this integrated planning sessions is what you use to reach to that point and be able to have a sound schedule to move to execution. And then you can see the rest of the components there. So we have some of these things in the handbook and also in the enterprise guide. But the key here is these key milestones, the key components have to be done. This is really a part of the advanced work packaging, is they have to be done earlier. Obviously, there was discussions in the group and before, like, okay, but you don't have your constructor yet. Well, you need the expertise, and somebody has to bring the expertise to the table. You need to have the expertise from operations, you need to have the expertise from construction. They need to be in the table, not necessarily organizations, but represented expertise to be able to do the planning. Around 7 years ago, we were in FEL2 of a multi-billion-dollar project, and we got a mandate, and somebody came and said, you gotta implement advanced work packaging. So we started looking around at the table, the project management team, and obviously, some people in the table like, what in the world is advanced work packaging? Others like, yeah, we heard something about CII, they implement some these things, and others like, oh yeah, the work phase planning, there's some things that you can get some good productivity, but we found pretty quickly that there was no alignment even within the understanding in the group that needs to be done. So we decided to have a training very early on FEL3, and that was one of the first things. We did an entire week of training, and we choose to train not only our organization, the owners team organization, we would train our contractors and the project management team from the contractor side to reach alignment. We go through the whole session, the whole week. And at the end of the week, I had the pleasure to work with one of the best construction managers in the industry, who is in the room. And Mike came at the end of it and asked me, hey, we really can do this thing. This is going to be utopia. I mean, this is spectacular. You really can make this happen. This is phenomenal. So, as we know, utopia comes from a Greek word, you know or not, and topos, place. So since the 1800s and more time, utopia has come to mean a place of, ideal perfection. So really what we were trying to do with AWP is in the previous stages before to moving to invest heavy money into execute the project, is you're trying to find your ideal project and document your ideal project with input from the different stakeholders. That's what we're really trying to do. So to reach perfection and look something that is going to be sound, there is a lot of components, but we want to point it out 3 components. So the research team want to point it out 3 components. The first one is starting with, begin with the end in mind. This is nothing new. This has been from research team 364. They shared this great graph some time ago. And we want to just add one more thing. For owners, for us, it's very, very critical to understand that the end in mind is an asset in operations. In operations means the operation of the plant is exactly as expected, or the facility is as expected, with the quality as expected. And here's one big component. Project managers have overall responsibility for the success of the project. This is nothing new. But also for the advanced work packaging program. So gone are the days to really maximize the benefits on AWP, where you have an AWP champion or one of the construction managers or one of the people from the field trying to massively move this thing and move it and progress the program and the AWP program and these key components into reality. It is almost impossible to do, or it is very difficult to do, because there's multiple stakeholders that have pieces of the puzzle. It is a multidisciplinary execution. So project managers, we have a high responsibility on the implementation of the advanced work packaging. We pretty much own it. Second component, Jay already mentioned it, integrated planning sessions. So this is pretty much old school, and many of you did this with the stickers in the wall. Now there are some other fancy tools to do it, but it doesn't matter. The key component, the key thing here is to have the right people on the table providing the input and the information. This graph appears a little bit complex, but is a simplified version of the reality, because there's so many things that can come together or need to come together to really define your path of construction soundly and align with the things that have to be happening later on. One of the important things, and this can be done, this is being done in the past, your system work packages have to be defined as early as possible. In this project, we managed to issue to the feed contractor the turnover P&IDs packages at 30% of completion of feed, because they need to base the planning, also the attributes in the 3D model, etc. They need to base it on something, so the operations teams work and put together information to be able to handle this and to have, at the end of the day, a sound schedule. So there's a lot of components that need to be part of it. So this is, again, common knowledge for all interactive planning sessions, but they need to happen, they need to be targeted, and the emphasis here is who needs to be in the room, the expertise that need to be in the room. Even if you need to bring it from other organizations, you can have a commissioning company, a commissioning organization that can bring this knowledge and then partner with the owners or whatever the stage is, or whatever the project team is doing. And the next component is AWP doesn't happen just because they happen. Project teams do AWP. And this is from the PDRI matters. This is very old known. The feed component, the front end, you're defining your scope, and then you have these other key components around. And each one of them, the important message here is each one of them, each one of the stakeholders, they have a piece of the puzzle. And we need to understand that it's not just the poor construction guys trying to push these things and then make the procurement guys understand it and the engineering guys to issue engineering work packages. It is each one has a part of the puzzle. And which puzzle we're trying to build is your utopia. Utopia, you plan, your baseline plan before moving to execution. So each one has to come to the table to bring these forward. That's why interactive plan sessions are so crucial. So multidisciplinary expertise is key to be able to have a sound execution plan. And again, your execution plan, your AWP plan cannot be any more chapter 11, chapter 12 of your entire execution plan, because this is a multidisciplinary execution from IT to way down to the operations guys. It's all combined, and they have to be and they have to be reflected in your execution plan. Key components in the execution plan to make sure you have what it takes to maximize your benefits in AWP. Scope, but geographical WBS, your construction work areas are defined. Your total installed cost is broken down by construction work areas and by discipline. You integrate the master schedule, not only EPC, but it has to be including your system work packages. So it's fully integrated from the moment you're going to start execution to the moment the turnover and start making money from your asset. Your contracting strategy has to be reflected into it, because there, as Jay mentioned in the previous session and in this, at the beginning of the session, there is a lot of interfaces and information that has to circulate and move around the different stakeholders. So it has to be a plan behind it. And those things have to be backed up with contractual information so everybody knows what needs to be done. Data integration and team alignment. So the plan is, before you move to execution, we're suggesting you have at least these key components need to be properly planned. You have to have your baseline plan to really execute and be very successful and set your contractors, suppliers, and everyone for success. Obviously, AWP definition, your different components of AWP, the construction work areas, etc. Path of construction, maturity into your execution plan. AWP tools and systems. Obviously, there depends on the size of the projects, the number or the data, or how the data is going to grow over time. You need to have a plan, and that has to be established. Your execution plan is embedded into your project execution plan. It's not just a component later on. It is your execution plan and your contracting strategy. So from the owner's perspective, we have to ensure always, if we're going to set up our contractors for success, we have to establish those requirements and we want them to do and how we want them to do it in your package when we go for bids. Not when you're in the kickoff meeting trying to figure it out how you can exchange information. These requirements should be established clearly, how you're going to interact with other players suppliers, etc., into your project to make it successful. So before you move to execution, these components, use them, put them into your procedures, ensure that they are done. And obviously, we're pointing out 2 interactive planning sessions. The reality is this is multiple, depends on the size of your project, is multiple sessions that will be able to achieve something like this. Now we're ready to go and full funded, project is approved, everybody's celebrating, so we're going to get ready for the execution. Meek.
Hi. I just want to ask you a simple question before I start my presentation. How many people actually attended a few months ago CII conference and with this RT390? None. Oh, good, because I can repeat my joke. Okay. First of all, how do I operate this? Okay. All right. Now, we have been talking about integrating stages, like a stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they have done 0, 1, myself, 2, 3, 4. I don't know whether it's fair or not. But then you can see below there's stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and with the various milestones there. But then, as Jay mentioned, is the dollar sign there? Or it can be euro, but it's the final investment decisions there. That's a very important milestone. All right, just make it very simple. Okay, we start AWP at stage 0, and then move towards stage 1, and then through final investment decision, they're going into stage 2, 3, 4, EPC. Right, I'm from EPC contractor. You can see, right, the construction is a latter part of stage 2, 3, 4. In fact, it's actually 3, a little below 3 and 4, right? So, I mean, what I wanted to explain to you is not a detail of AWP, but it's actually overview. You know, for the details, you can look at various books published by CAI, but maybe you can get to understand what is the image of overall AWP. That's why I'm explaining to you, I mean, just going through from stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now, and then I'm going to talk about 5 points here. First of all, AWP is a long journey, right? It's not a one-time effort. It's a continuous effort until the project is delivered. In fact, that will be only starting point for the owner and operator to start the plant, right? Number 2, enterprise readiness. Okay, we can be very successful in one project, maybe with excellent resources, project managers, maybe one-time success. That's fine. But as an enterprise, we want to keep it as sustainable. We want to be successful for multiple projects. So what do we do? So get ready for AWP success as an enterprise. So third point, major success points, okay, focus on what is critical. You know, what I mean is that Herman was talking about utopia, right? So we are talking about utopia, right? But then can we really make it happen? Well, the reality, maybe not. But then if, okay, so 90% of utopia, is it really existing? So what I want to say is that even though you cannot be 100% success, you have to continue until the end of the project, right? So you cannot give up. But then what you can do is you focus on the critical points. So I'm going to introduce you a few critical points. All right, the next point is point of no return. Okay, so the construction is basically, based on the engineering and the procured material or equipment, we actually install that. We start spending money actually from the procurement. And then once it's installed, of course, or once it's procured, you cannot give it back to the supplier. The money is spent. So you cannot go back to stage 1 or 0. So that's a point of no return. And then finally, I want to shed the light, on AWP from data management perspective. Okay, let's get started. Okay, stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So what we can see is that stage 0 and 1 is before physical, before point of no return. So we start with the conceptual, planning. And then interactive planning stage, path of construction, yes. And then it's going to be refreshed and refined over time. That's fine, because you can still change. It's conceptual. And then going into stage 1, it's still virtual. It's not physical yet, right? So you can still, think about it. Wait a minute, maybe this is better way. That is better way. You can still switch it, or you can still give maybe changes, right? And then engineers start writing or producing drawings. That's fine, because this is before physical. But once it going into construction, you can never ever go back. That's understood, right? Okay, so Jay explains stage 0, Herman explains stage 1. The project already started. Maybe stage 0 and 1 could take probably a few years, or maybe select phase. Okay, the decision is not made like I select this project. No, that project or that project. And then defining the project, we find a problem, right? A long lead item will not make it, or maybe some political issues. So they spend years to actually get to stage 3, and then final investment decision. What's going to happen to EPC contractor? As a company, we are keeping bidding for a project, right? One project, okay, salesperson comes to us, okay, this is a bidding here, maybe a few months later, this is the new bidding, next year, and it's like going here and passing by. It's like and next one, and next one. And we don't know which product is really ready for AWP. But I'm going to talk about enterprise readiness, but as a company or contractor, we have to be ready all the time whenever it comes. So it's like a bus is coming here, and we have to ride on if we awarded the project. And then the good news or bad news, okay, we have to drive the bus. With actually navigations probably made by or given by owners. But then we have to drive a car, drive the bus, right? So that's actually, it's very critical. So we have to be responsible, right? So we have to listen to the owners. How do you actually structure WBS? Is it the right, interpretation of AWP? Maybe you have a lot of misunderstanding, or maybe data structure is wrong, or what we are doing is completely different from what they have been doing. So what can we do? So you can see, if you go to the right path, so all smiling faces. But then you could go to sideways, right? Then what do we do? But still, remember, this is still conceptual. Okay, going different way. Okay, come back to the right track. That's fine. The next, go to the sideways again. Then you can come back to the right track again. Right, now, say final investment decisions, we got a job, we are going to start, this is the budget, this is estimated profit. Okay, let's get started. Right, then go to sideways again. Right, this is the reality of the project. It's not always utopia. But then, of course, we are imagining, we are going to have some utopia later on. Okay, so you can see up to the end of engineering, it's okay. But after that, can we go really sideways? No. You will see crying faces or angry faces. So what we can do is that we have to minimize the impact. That means I'm going to talk about how do we minimize the impact is maybe focusing on the few important points. As you can see, this I made a joke in the last conference. It's like a marriage life, right? The marriage is not like, going dates with a girlfriend. It's a very long time efforts, right? I think you know that. Then it can go sideways, but then you have to talk, and they come back here, smiling faces, maybe just on surface, but then go in different way and come back here again. All right, so this is really like a long-term journey. All right, then we are still targeting at happy ending story. Okay, now I'm going to talk about enterprise and projects. You can see the right-hand side. Okay, we have an industrial initiative like CII, AWP. This is also the one. Right, then as an enterprise, we are going to absorb the knowledge, listen to the people, maybe sometimes invite trainers, and then we're going to get maturity level 1 first, maybe a few years later, maturity level 2 and 3. But meantime, you still have to execute the project, multiple projects, right? So apply your AWP methodology to feed A, and then a few years later, right, maybe next project, EPC, next feed, or next EPC, right? You can see at what stage you are applying your knowledge and methodology to your own projects, right? So we have to have a jump start the project, because once we are awarded to start the project, we don't have any time to learn anymore. We have to be ready, right? So that's why, as an enterprise, we have to have a maturity level changes. We have to be aware of that. And then system and data environment should be ready. Are you ready? Right, so, okay, we are going to implement AWP for the next project. Next project, you don't know, you cannot estimate next month or 3 months later it comes. So you invite IT provider or whatever, you get prepared. You cannot do that. So you have to start now, right? Then apply AWP process to the project. At least you have to select the project manager who understands AWP, right? Second, configure the project as soon as the project starts, and then you have to have a WBS and work packages, roles and responsibilities, coding and data structure, which was discussed this morning too. And then AWP monitoring scheme, right? The next, altogether, applying enterprise AWP foundation to each project anytime they start. Then it's up to your company whether you get a new knowledge for AWP, you want to apply this new methodology to the existing project, or you wait until ongoing project finishes. But the problem is, oil and gas projects actually takes a long time, 3-4 years, 5 years. Sometimes maybe the first project we apply AWP, and then there are people maybe outside of the country, the project manager, construction manager come back to the office, and then we are doing something different, right? Because it's like they lost 3-4 years of advancement of AWP. So you have to keep on refreshing the knowledge, even to the project you applied long before. All right. And then secondly, what I want to stress on is that the critical points. Okay, as you know, engineers start with P&ID. Excuse me. That's actually system-based. And then move on to equipment and maybe like a piping design, and then going into area-based design, like a civil, right? Then, but the bad news is that construction always start with physical. That means it's area-based, right? So you have to wait for the information drawings or those deliverables engineers produce at the last moment, then you have to actually use it for the first time. That means in the beginning. So that's a critical point. We really suffered, my company suffered this critical points. So that means, okay, we cannot really get those drawings ready for the foundation. Okay, we went through so much battles with engineers. You should know the drawing should be ready by what date. I say, oh, you always put 3 months allowance, so we thought that we can give you in 2 months' time. So it's like a no trust relationship, right? Next 10th of November, we are going to actually pour the concrete for the foundation, right? Then they don't believe that because we always put the required date, just, always push back. So that means we need to have a trust relationship. If the construction people say, we needed this drawing by this day, it's really needed this day. So that engineers will produce, they start to believe what the construction people are saying. All right, next one is manage critical changes and impacts. So obviously you're bound to have changes, right? Third-party involvement, right? Vendors cannot supply exactly the equipment as we specified. Information supply chain is broken, so the vendors forgot to deliver something. We haven't ordered any, like maybe including spare parts or accessories or construction tools. And then long lead items, always delay. As Jay mentioned, long lead items always become very, very critical. Then number 3, monitor the critical KPIs with consistent data quality and real-time data feed. That's something to do with the data management. So these 3 points, you got to really focus. That means if you're running your project based on the false data, what's going to happen? The worst problem is that people will get to, not believe the data anymore. So it's like, if you're feeding the good data, they believe the data quality, and they make decisions based on the data. But once it's wrong, secondly is wrong, third is actually completely lie, then fourth, they don't believe it anymore. So that's the worst case. So you got to establish this enterprise culture of data management and data quality. All right, so in summary, engineering last is always constructed first. And then requirements to complete all area-based IWP before starting system-based SWP. That's a critical point. Okay, the next one is a point of no return. Right, now it becomes physical. All right, so conceptual, virtual, and then physical, then plan with the end in mind here. That means you have to imagine that once it becomes physical and then system-based, then you have to backcast the delivery date. Then conduct interactive, of course, planning sessions. Then prepare for physical implementation. Right, path of construction, simple AWP procedure, so that all the supervisors will also understand what they have to do. Build strong data management frameworks, infrastructure. Okay, so as I mentioned, the construction, once it started, then you cannot stop. Then focus on critical paths, gathering data, and monitor real-time KPI, make quick decisions, then take quick actions. All right, finally, I want to talk about data. All right, as you can see, coming back here. Okay, the amount of data, compare with stage 0, you can see the volume is shooting up. You can see this morning they are talking about 5.5 million components. Actually, it's going to be much, much more. 5.5 million components. Say it's a material and equipment. That means at least we are going to have about around 5 million tags. That means 5 million tags will be installed with some components. And then you're talking about documents. Say, at least in my experience, you may have maybe 500,000 documents, engineering documents. Then 500,000 documents will contain certain component information and tag information. You can see multiply 5 million times 500,000 documents. How many is going to be the data elements? You really have to have a solid data management foundation. Right, so keep master, tag register, document register. At least you have to keep track with this tag, around tag. So you have to have a tag class, which is defined by CFOs, and area-based structure, CWA, and the plant system data breakdown structure, and schedule, and WBS. Okay, and then control data quality, and then we have to follow certain standards. Otherwise, the people wouldn't understand what data you are dealing with. And then conduct data governance. AWP start with, okay, so this summary, decomposition of project into packages. And then requires more granular data, right? And then requires more data, and then requires more digitalization, and then stronger data management. Actually, more granular you break the project into pieces, you will be able to see the details. If you can see, you can watch it. If you watch it, you notice the problem, and then you can control better. Okay.
I know we're running out of time, but yeah, thank you, Mick. So just to add to Mick's discussion there real quick, the elements that we need to have at the end of this project, at this stage gate, obviously are varying, but you can see here, these are the ones we've picked out as a team that are important. And I think the golden rule I mentioned this morning, okay, never issue an IWP that's constrained. We just can't do that. If you do it, you're just asking for trouble, okay? And I want to show you the last thing. Get your eyes prepared here. I can't remember. I think the bottom right image is the 2D. No, the top right is the 2D, and the others are going to be a path of construction that's done on a project and execute, completed, or essentially at the completion stage. So you can see the equipment coming in, things like that. So the benefits, of this path of construction, obviously that visual construction sequence and progress is critical. Communications between all these partners, you can use this, to have on a daily basis. Simple visuals. There's no language barriers here. You can see it. Doesn't matter what language you speak. You can do scenario planning with this. You can visualize your lifts and your motion sequence of your cranes. It's a safety issue. You can be used to plan all your yard activities, etc. You can also plan real-time progress and essentially use this in your daily mission control room. Now, this can be done against if you're using cameras, photography, or still, or drones. You can compare what you've got planned in this model against what you're doing on an hourly basis. So I'm going to do this work today. This is what the team sees. And at the end of that day, I can go back and look, did I do what I said I was going to do? Is it the same? Did we plan it right? Did it take, all these things can be done with this model. So just to give you an idea, I think we're finished. You get the picture, right? All right, we're finishing. So this is all the information that's coming out. It should be published by the end of the year. I know we took all the time, and your time for lunch is up. So if you want to ask a question, you can. If you want to go eat, go eat. Find us afterwards. How about that? Thanks.